Hi there, welcome back to my channel. I am going to do a tutorial for this album that I've shared with you a couple of weeks ago. It's probably 2, maybe 3 weeks depending on when I'm able to post this. This was the Krystal mini album that I've made, and I've said to you, like, if you want to have a tutorial, please let me know. And yes, you let me know you wanted a tutorial, so we're gonna do it. I've made a frame in this cover. I'm sorry, that was a little bit of dark of light. So that's what I'm going to show you. And I'm going to show you how I did the binding for this album. So just keep in mind that this is not an album that you want to use and really bulk up and make heavy pages. Because it's not a binding that can have a lot of weight on it. So keep that in mind. Because what you are going to need is chipboard for the cover. I don't have that here, right here. And you're going to need some crochet thread or yarn, however you want to call it, but pretty thin. I just use white for that. I'm going to use white cardstock, and I recommend 80 pounds or 100 pounds. 65 you can use, but it might be a little too flimsy, but yeah, if you want to use it, of course use it. And I'm going to use 12 by 12 papers, but you can also use your 8.5 by 11 papers. Of course, I don't have the same paper collection as I have right here, so I'm going to use this kit that I've got. It's from Craft and it's called the Serenity Kit. And I just bought it without really knowing what was going to be in there. But I'm really happy that I did. So let me open this up. I probably won't use everything, but because not everything is to my personal flavor. There are some pattern papers in here, but you also get some trim, lace, how do you call this, in there. And this is one of the things where I'm not sure if I'm going to use it, but it's this trim. It looks pretty fun, but it's, yeah, you never have seen me use any trim on my albums, ever. So this, I'm really not sure how to call this, but this is pretty fun actually. But I'm not inspired yet on how I would use that, but maybe I will use it. Some flowers, but stickers, always fun. Some nice colored stickers, and I really love the colors in this collection. Some, yeah, these are loose in here because the packaging was sticking to everything and I didn't want anything to get ripped, so these are loose in here. Some ephemera pieces, a lot of flowers, some quotes, some stuff, just fun things to work with. I have 2 stamps. This is actually the stamp that I've used in the Krystal album. So yeah, if you have seen that, you know that how we can use that. Some chipboard phrases, but I would probably try to give this some color in some way. Then you get a piece of acetate. That is really fun because the first page I've made out of acetate. So I can really use that to create that page. And don't have to do anything more to it than that. But as I'm looking at this, it's also designed, I think, to cut out the images out of the acetate. So that's also something you can do and use them as embellishments. And then we have, I believe it's 6 papers, but maybe it's 8, I'm not sure. But I'm going to quickly show you. And this, I probably will use this on the cover. But with the frame I might also lose too much of it. So, and then I decide to put it on the inside cover. So that's also possible. I haven't decided yet. Some nice stripes. Also really beautiful. And we'll also have some strips on the bottom that have some quotes on them. So that's really usable as well. I have this nice flowered patterns or leaves actually. Again, really pretty green colors. I just love the colors in this, and I wish they really had a complete paper pack from this collection because I would buy 3 of them probably. So again, love this. This will also make for a great background for some for a layout. Leaves in gray, and again beautiful flowered watercolored look to it. This is maybe not my favorite, but still really pretty. Some nice polka dots and darker green leaves. And then this one with a solid gray. So these are more the solid papers, but there is a little pattern in there. And the last one, and I didn't count them, but I think it's 8 papers. And that's when I got this kit, I was like, okay, I'm going to make a folio, but then I was like, I don't have enough papers. But actually an album like I've made with the Krystal mini album, that's just perfect for these kind of kits if you're not into actual scrapbooking and making layouts and that sort of stuff. So yeah, I think it's perfect for that. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to see what mixed media items I can find that I can combine with this. So maybe some ink, or you could do some molding paste, or with stencil. Yeah, I'm just going to see what I have and what I can use. So there you go, it's sticking already there. So this is what I'm going to do, and I wanted to show you that before I was getting started. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to film it, but I'm going to use a voiceover. Yeah, because it's just really hard to find quality time to talk you through the whole process. But the base, except for maybe the frame and the cover, of course, but the base, making this, it's actually really easy. So I'm sure you can do it. And it's, even if you never made an album before, try this and then maybe leave this frame out. But you can do this. Yeah, let's get to the fun. I've selected some paper so that I'm going to use for the cover, and first my thought was to use this one, but I think it's a little bit too busy for the cover, so I'm going with the other flower pattern. And with that I'm going to combine a solid color for the spine. So I have 4 options, and on my first sheet I have this blue color, which would work with the paper, but I don't really like. Then the white is too flat for me, so this is not going to be it. Then we have the other sheet with the green, and that's really pretty, really beautiful, good option, and the gray. And this gray is going to give a little bit more contrast. So this is my first thought of using, but I have a really hard time making a decision between the green and the gray. So I'm coming back to that a couple of times, but I won't show you that, all of that of course, but we are going for the gray. So for the cover you're going to need 2 pieces of chipboard that measure 6.5 by 6.5 inches, square pieces, and you're going to need a spine piece that is 6.5 by 1 3/8 of an inch. And I'm going to start with cutting my papers to size. So I've selected that nice paper here, and I'm cutting that to 7.5 inches. And then we have a nice scrap piece left for something else. And I'm going to cut this in half at 6 inches. And the 6-inch mark is really hard to read on my paper trimmer, so I'm going to use my ruler for it because I want to be quite precise. I know about where I need to be, but if I really want to be precise, I use my ruler. So that is prepared, and I've already cut my spine piece to size as well. That's also 7.5 inches in height, and I believe it's 4 inches in width. So again, I'm just trying to see here, what do I like better, the green or the gray? But the green, it does work with this paper, but it might be a little bit too flat, and the gray is just giving me that little bit of extra contrast. So that's why we go for the gray. Okay, I'm going to get one larger piece of chipboard. That's going to be my front cover, and I'm going to draw that frame that we are going to cut out of the chipboard. So I'm going to make a mark 1 inch from the right cut edge, and I do that on 2 places so that I can draw the line there, but I'm going to do that with my T ruler. And I'm also going to make 1 inch, a mark 1 inch from the bottom cut edge, so I do that again on 2 different places. Just make a little tick mark, and then I'm getting my T ruler so I can draw some straight lines there. And I'm trying to make a line that is 3 inches long, but it's quite hard for me to read that on this ruler for some reason. So I'm going to check that in a minute if I did that right, but I did. So also in this direction, draw the line 3 inches up. There we go. And then I'm going to check if that indeed is a 3-inch line, but even if it isn't, it's not a big deal because you can just correct that with your other lines later. And then from the line that I've just made, I'm going to measure 3 inches because my frame is going to be 3 by 3. And I will write that down in a second. Okay, so I'm going to draw that line, and you really want to try to be precise here, because the more precise you are in these steps, the easier it's going to be to cut out your frame from your pattern paper. So there are a few steps here on the front cover where you want to try to be precise. Okay, so now I'm going to check if I really have a nice 3 by 3 inch square here on my cover, and it seems that I have. I'm pretty happy with what I did here. So we can start cutting, and I like to pierce the corners for nice clean results, and this is a pretty sharp paper piercer. I believe it's from Tim Holtz. So I'm just pinching all 4 corners, and then I will write down that I've made a 3 inch by 3 inch square here. That's for the people that don't understand my English, that they also see what I am doing. So trying to show you that it's a 3 by 3 inch square. So now I'm going to cut it, and I'm using my ruler and my knife, and with my ruler I go over 2, sometimes 3 times on all my lines, and then the final cuts I will do freehand. So then I'll just make sure that I'm completely through the chipboard, and once I've done that on all my lines, I can try to push out that square. You can also do this with your paper trimmer, with that little iron thread, those paper trimmers, you can use those as well. Okay, so one corner wasn't completely cut through to the back, so I'm going to finish it up a little bit and then just get rid of that square piece. Or maybe you can use it for some dimension on some pieces later on this project or some other project. Now we are going to clean up that frame, and I'm going to use the gray pattern paper, and I'm using, I'm cutting here 2 strips that are 3/4 of an inch. You can also go for 1 inch, but I feel that this 3/4 of an inch, that's enough, so why use more? And I'm going to score them halfway, so in my case that's at 3/8 of an inch. So we can fold them in half. And at this point I'm like, ooh, I've never tried this with the Kaisercraft papers. I don't know if they are going to hold up or if this is going to crack on me. And maybe I should have tried that before I cut all my pieces to size. I don't know, but luckily it held up. So if some pattern papers will crack if you score and fold on them. So maybe you want to try it if you're using a brand that you've never done this with before. So I have this ruler here that has a perfect 45-degree angle, and I'm going to use that to cut my angles in my strips. So I'm just lining that up and making sure that I have a 45-degree angle there on the end of my paper. And then I'm getting my front cover back in, and I'm going to line up the folded edges on top. I'm going to line it up with the frame, where the frame starts, and I'm going to mark with my pencil where the frame ends. So that's that 3 inch. And then I get this ruler back. So if you have something that has a 45-degree angle, that's really convenient. And I am going to mark where I need to cut on that side. So here again I'm using my scissors, but later on I am going to do that with my knife and just cut it straight along the ruler. But I find it a little bit scary because I'm always afraid that I'm going to cut in my ruler and ruin it, but it went okay this time. So this is a little bit too long now, so I'm just going to make a little adjustment. And if you have to make adjustments, please do that like a little tiny bit at a time, because you rather make adjustments twice than you cut off a piece that is too big and you don't get a nice result. So really tiny bits that you're going to cut off, and just try that again. So this fits now. I'm happy with that. So we can glue that down. And I did ink the edges a little bit. I'm going to show you with the next piece where I placed my ink, and I was in doubt if I'm going to do this with wet glue or with tape, but I'm using my wet glue. And this looks like a lot of glue, but it's not. It's just a little bit. And then I can glue that down. So the score line is going on the edge, and then you just fold it over. And you see my knife lying there with the sharp side facing up. That's really dangerous. Don't do that. I'm going to place it away in a second, but we have quite a dangerous hobby, people, so play safe. Don't do this. Luckily it went okay. So that is in place, and now I'm going to prepare the second piece. So again, I'm going to make sure that my angle is going in the right direction. And I'm just doing this for each side. I'm just cutting it to size, ink it, glue it down, because each side can be just a little bit different, and I want to get the best result that I can get. So I'm just doing it side for side. So again, I'm going to cut that angle, and now you see that I'm just doing that with my knife. Place it a little bit safer away from me. Make sure that it fits, and this time I did do that right at once. So now I'll show you where I ink. I ink only on that short side there, because the other sides we are going to hide, so you don't need to ink that. And I just do that because I'm placing it on a darker surface, and then I want to hide that white core of the paper. Okay, so this is going in place as well. And I try to make those edges line up as best as I can, but it doesn't always work out. But I still find that this gives me a better end result than when you place the strip inside and fringe on the corners and get a lot of bulk. This is really worth the effort. And you do see the corners there, of course you see it, but that's not gonna bother you in the end, I promise. I think I did a pretty good job there. Okay, so now on the wider side, I'm going to mark 1 inch from the edge again. And this is going to mark where our spine piece is going to come. So again, I'm going to draw a straight line, because you want to be precise in this moment, just to prepare yourself for having to cut that frame out of your pattern paper. So I'm using my T-ruler again, and now I'm going to get the paper in for the spine, and I'm just showing you here, this is a 1 inch mark. I'm placing that paper on my work surface, and I'm going to line that up with the line that I just draw. The edge of the paper is lined up with the line that I just draw on my chipboard, and I keep about 1/2 inch from top and bottom. And then I'm going to mark on the paper to where my chipboard is going. And then again, I'm going to make that into a nice straight line with my ruler, so that I can have a straight line to work from. And then I also mark 1/2 inch from the bottom, and I will do the same thing on the top, 1/2 inch from the top as well, because that's the spacing that you're going to need to wrap over the chipboard. So I'm drawing that line as well, and then I'm going to place some tape on that 1 inch part from that 1/2 inch to the 1/2 inch. You don't have to fill it 100%, but just I'm using 2 strips of 3/8 inch tape here. So we get that in place, give that a good burnish, and then we can remove those tape backings. And I am getting smarter, I'm using a tool and not ruining my nails. There we go, and then I can place that chipboard on the paper, but be aware that you do that in the right direction. This is going to be the front, so I'm flipping it over. This is the front, I'm flipping it over and stick that paper on the front side of the cover. And I'm lining it up there, the corner, with the intersection of my pencil lines, and bring it up to the intersection on top. And stick that down. Give that a little bit of a burnish. You can also do that on the other side if you want. But there we go. And then next up, I'm going to place some spacing tape. You can do that as well. You can use your 1/4 inch tape for that. But you can also draw a line 1/4 inch from your chipboard edge. So I'm placing the tape here. I think that's just quick and easy. And then we are going to place the spine part. So I've covered that with double-sided tape. Remove that tape backing. There we go. And then I'm going to use my ruler to get it straight lined up with the front cover as well. So I'm placing my ruler against there, and then place the spine piece up against the ruler and use my spacing tape to determine the space that I need between the pieces. And give that a burnish. And then finally we need to place the back cover. So there's no tape on here yet. I'm just placing it on here, and I'm going to mark on the chipboard to where my pattern paper is going to be. So I can use those pencil lines for placing some tape on the chipboard, because I don't want to have the tape showing at this moment. So again, just fill that in a little bit. And then I'm doing the same thing, use my ruler to line it up on the bottom and use the spacing tape to determine the space. And just place it on there. And give that a good burnish, and then I will also burnish it a little bit on the other side. And now we need to wrap over the pattern paper, but I like to prevent some cracking, so I have a scoring tool here that I'm just going to score the paper on the edge of the chipboard. So I'm going over a couple of times to make a good score, and then I will also pre-fold the paper. Just pushing it onto my work surface there. And now I'm going to apply some tape on the edge of the cardstock. So just some 1/4 inch tape I'm using here. And I will also place that on the chipboard edge. And for that I first need to remove the tape backings of that spacing tape. Now it might be a little bit overkill that I'm placing some tape here as well. So it's up to you if you want to do that or not. But if I do it, and I'm doing it as you can see, I really want to push the tape in those gusset areas. I find it's just the little details that make for a better closing cover in the end. So I'm really pushing it in there, and then I will remove that tape backing. And I'm going to also use a little bit of wet glue along the edge of the chipboard. I just like doing that. I think it gives me a cleaner edge on my bottom and on the top of the covers. So I'm pushing the paper up against the chipboard edge and then slowly burnish it over, breaking down the fibers of that paper. All that steps to prevent cracking of the cardstock. And then you just stick it down there. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side, but I'm not showing you that. I think we get the point. So when I've done that, I'm going to burnish the paper in the gusset areas, and I'm using this bone folder for it. I have my hand under the front cover and I'm trying to push the paper against the chipboard. So I'm not pushing straight down, I'm pushing sideways a little bit. And then once I've done that on top and bottom, I'm going to lift the cover up so that I can really push that paper in that gusset area. And I'm going to do that on both gussets. And then we have our spine paper wrapped. So this is how that looks like right now. And then we are going to do the hard part. We are going to cut the pattern paper for the front cover. Now I don't want to use that paper because I'm going to lose too much of that flower. So we're going for this one. I'm going to bump the papers up against each other. So that front cover paper against the spine paper. And then I should have about 1/2 inch on top and bottom and a little over 1/2 inch on the side. And I'm placing it like this, and then I'm going to mark on the paper to where my cover is going to go. So draw all those lines, all 3 lines. And then I will also mark where the right bottom corner is on my paper, because I'm getting really confused with this. So I just need to mark that for myself. I don't know if it really helped me, but yeah, I just wanted to be sure. So I'm going to measure if I did a good job with cutting that frame. That should be 1 inch, and it is. So I'm going to make the line on my pattern paper 7/8 of an inch, so that I have a nice 1/8 inch of that gray showing when I've cut my frame. So I'm lining my ruler up with the line of the cover that I just draw. So my 0 is on that line, and then I'm measuring 7/8 of an inch, and I'm doing that on 2 different places so I can connect the pencil marks. There we go. And then I also measure how far it is from my cover edge to the end of the frame, and that should be about 4 inches, and it is. So to get that frame, I'm going to make my pencil mark at 4 1/8 of an inch. So again, my 0 of the ruler is going on the line that marks the cover edge. So let's first connect those pencil marks. There we go. So my 0 is going on the line that marks the cover edge, and I'm marking 4 1/8 of an inch. And also connect those. And then I'm going to do the same thing from the bottom edge of my cover. I'm measuring if that is a nice 1 inch, and it is. So we are going to make a mark 7/8 of an inch from the line that marks the bottom of my cover. And this one is really hard to see because it's on the gray. But that is what I'm doing. So connect those lines, and then what I'm going to do is make the intersections of my pencil marks a little bit darker. So then I'm going to measure from the bottom of my cover how far until the top of the frame. Again, that's a nice 4 inch like I want it. So I can make that mark at 4 1/8 of an inch again. 4 1/8 of an inch, and connect those as well. And then I have to make my lines on the side a little bit higher because I didn't draw them high enough. So yes, there we go. And make that intersection there a little bit darker for you to see it a little bit better. There, and then I'm just going to trust myself that I did a good job here, and I'm going to pierce the corners of this paper because I just like to do that. It gives me a nice clean cut on my corners when I cut out frames like this. So pierce all 4 sides and then cut out the frame. I just like to do that with my ruler and my knife. You can do this with your paper trimmer as well if you want to. So let's do this on all 4 sides, and then it should just fall out there because I've pierced those corners. There we go. So at this moment I am like, oh gosh, I really messed this up. I totally did it on the wrong place. This is like a big puzzle for me. But I didn't mess it up. I just did it how I was supposed to do it. But there we go. I've made a match. So let's turn this around because that's the side that we want to see, of course. How did we do? And I am pretty happy with what I did here. That looks pretty good to me. So I'm inking the inside of that frame with a little bit of black soot, really light. Just get rid of that white core because it's going on a darker background again. So just look at that again because I cannot get enough of my own work there. I'm really happy. So now I am going to place some tape on this pattern paper for gluing it down, and I'm just going to place the tape on where the cover is going to be. I've marked that with my pencil line so I know exactly where it's going. So that is where I place the tape. I also place some tape around the perimeter of the frame because I wanted to have a nice stick there as well. And then I fill in the larger spaces a little bit. So I give that a good burnish, remove all those tape backings, and don't worry, I'm not going to make you watch the whole thing. So remove it, and here I'm going to be living on the edge. I'm just going for it, no wet glue for wiggle time, just place it there. And I could really mess this up, but luckily I didn't. So I place that really tight against that spine paper and then have my eye on the frame there and drop it and give that a burnish. Okay, flip it over, and now I'm going to place tape around the perimeter of the cardstock, 1/4 inch tape, and I will also place some 1/8 inch tape on the perimeter of the chipboard. So I'm going to do that on all 3 sides. Again, give that a good burnish, and then we can miter the corners, and I'm just doing that. Eyeballing that a little bit here, but you want to keep some space. Don't go all the way to the chipboard edge. I'm going to show you in a second. You want to have some paper away from your chipboard corners. give yourself some space there. Again, I'm going to score that edge a little bit, so we preventing of the cardstock. And pre-fold. And then I'm going to start on the top. I'm going to do the top first and then the bottom. I remove the tape backings on both the cardstock and the chipboard cover and a little bit on the side of the chipboard. Just fold that back a little bit. And then again, I like to apply some wet glue along the edge on the paper, but against the chipboard. And here's my daughter. She's coming by. She's interested in what I'm doing, but even more interested in all the stuff that I have lying. And she's like, what is that? Are you using that? Can I have it? Well, darling, no. But she really, she wants to make a book like mommy. So hopefully one day we can do that. So here I'm just like with the spine, I'm just folding and burnishing and have that wrapped over. Repeat that process on the bottom. There we go. And now we have a little bit of overhang of paper there on that corner. That is what we want. And I'm going to fold that in with this bone folder here. Just fold that inwards and just make it as flat as you can get it. So fold it in and push that flat. And I always, making it flat, I like to do that with this bone folder. I can give a little bit more pressure. There we go. And then this is how that should look like, but it's really hard to see. Okay, again, some wet glue there, and I still have to remove that tape backing, and then you just fold it over like you did with the other pieces. Get rid of the tape backing there and start folding it over. And there we go. So give that a good burnish. Maybe you want to work your corners a little bit. I have that on my back cover. There's one corner that I'm not really happy with, so I'm just, yeah, with my bone folder I just make it flat. And I'm going to show you how those corners should be looking, how that should be. So this is one and this is the bottom, and that looks pretty good to me. So let's see how that looks, and this is already looking great if you ask me. I'm really happy. This paper is so pretty. So now for the back cover we're going to do the same thing, but of course we don't have to make that frame, so it's a little bit easier. Just make sure that if your paper is directional that you have it in the right orientation. So again, I'm just bumping it up again against that spine part, and my spine paper is going a little bit further on the back cover than it goes on the front cover, and that's okay with me. But that also means I have a little bit more space on the side of this paper, and that's just fine. So again, I'm just marking where the cover is going to be on the paper. Fill that area in with my double-sided tape so that we can stick that down. So, and I'm just using 1/4 inch tape right now, but you can also do this with your 3/8 inch tape or whatever it is that you have. If you prefer to use wet glue, that is fine, of course, as well. So again, just giving that a good burnish, remove all those tape backings, and then we can stick that back cover, stick this on the back cover. So I'm just flipping it and push that against that spine part there and drop it. And now we're just going to repeat the steps that we did on the front cover for wrapping it. So I'm going a little bit faster here, but I just like to show it because if you're new to this, then you also want to be able to follow what we are doing. So I've placed that tape again around the perimeter, and we are ready to miter the corners. So let's just cut that away. Then I am going to score the edges again and pre-fold the flaps so that we can start folding it over. So pre-fold that, and then again I'm doing the same thing. I'm going to do the top and the bottom first and then the side last. So peel all of that away, some wet glue, and fold it over. And we do the same thing on the bottom. And then I will show you one more time how I go with that paper with the folding in, because again, if you're new to it yeah, I just show you one more time how that works. I'm just getting my bone folder and I'm making a 90-degree angle with my bone folder, pushing that paper in against the chipboard edge there. Do that again and just push all of that flat. And then I was a little bit worried about that corner. I was afraid that was going to get me a naked corner there, but I just kept going because there's no going back now. But eventually I was fine. But on the top corner I wasn't really happy, so I'm just hitting it with my bone folder a little bit to make it more flat. And then this is the basic cover on the outside, and I'm really happy with how this looks already. This is a really nice result. So in the next video we will continue, clean up the spine on the inside, work on that frame and just make this look even more pretty. So see you there. Bye bye.